Hey guys, and welcome to Cinema Sunday, and my name is Kim, and if we've never met, I am a creative freelancer with a passion for film and the written word, and if we have met, welcome back. And I'm so excited because today we're going to talk about one of my favorite directors of all time, and the 5 movies I think you should see of his. Interested in finding out who? Let's get started. Alright guys, so if you've watched any of my other videos on any of my other days, you have heard this name time and time again. I'm sure maybe you guys are getting tired of it, but I can never get tired of Francis Ford Coppola. He's just an amazing director with a fantastic eye, and he is a true artist. So I thought, let me compile a list of 5 movies I think you should see that maybe you've never seen or even heard of, that would get you into Coppola. Maybe not as much as I am, but definitely you will enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 5, and wait, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know there is one particular movie that is not on my top 5 list, and I know I'm going to get comments below because it's the Godfather movies. And I understand, I get it, it's a great film trilogy, it is masterfully done, as most of Coppola's stuff is. It is just not in my top 5. If I had to, it'd probably be number 6, and so it just fell a little short of getting on the list. Anyway, I digress. Let's start again. So number 5. Number 5 would be Finians Rainbow. And Finians Rainbow was 1968, a musical about a kind of like con man from Ireland who steals a leprechaun's pot of gold, brings it to America, wants to bury it in the ground, and find that American dream. There is also political undertones about the treatment of African Americans in the South and a lot of other stuff. But this movie, the reason it's on my top 5 is not for any of that. Now this movie stars Fred Astaire, Petula Clark, Tommy Steele. Really, really awesome cast, great music, but Coppola's use of his camera in this movie in wide sweeping shots and motion shots is spectacular. And honestly, it's the movie that got him attention, that propelled him into The Godfather and Apocalypse Now and all of the great classics that came after. So I think, and it's kind of outside the box, it's not something typical people think of when they think of Coppola. The musical is not involved, but he did start on the stage. So like when he was in college, like that was his focus, was stage work. So in this movie you can see that, and you can see his love for musicals. So if you're looking for something that's kind of lighthearted and fun to watch, and you're kind of waiting to get into his more in-depth things like Apocalypse Now and The Godfather, check out Finians Rainbow. It's an awesome watch. So that leads me to number 4. And number 4 is his very first film that he ever did. He had been working with Roger Corman, and this was the first film that he did with his own name, and that's Dementia 13. Dementia 13, 1963. Storyline is basically there's like a scheme to gain the inheritance of this man, but it's thrown off kilter when an axe murderer shows up and tries to kill this scheming widow. So pretty straightforward storyline, right? But it is a Corman film, so it is very in that B world kind of life. Really well done. You can still see his stage experience in the way he sets up camera shots in this film. Great use of light and dark, just kind of a fun film, and I think they either are or have remade it. Honestly, I'm not even sure I would go see that because this movie is still so good. Now understand it was in a time when there wasn't a lot of effects and everything, so everything was pretty much angles and stuff like that, which is kind of what I enjoy when I'm looking at a thriller horror. I don't know if I'd call it horror, but thriller horror kind of idea. Kind of the predecessor to slasher films if you think about it, because there was an axe murderer. So yeah, check it out, his first film. And I honestly think if you're going to get into a director, you need to see his very first film, because that is the film where his vision, where his heart, where his life has not been jaded or corrupted or pushed by studios into doing things that they don't want to do. It's the truest, purest his vision will or has ever been. Some of the directors are able to fight that, but I always suggest if you're going to get into directors, see their very first film. It makes a difference. Okay, so let's move on. Number 3 is 1983's The Outsiders. And the reason I picked this movie is because I think if you were born in the 80s or you were raised in the 80s, this movie, there was kind of like a coming of age thing. And for me, it's like a West Side Story retelling with a little more drama and a little more intensity. It is a great film and has an amazing cast of a lot of people that go on to, there's so many people in this, I can't even name them. A lot of them went on to greater things. So check it out. I'm not really gonna spend too much time on this one because this one is more of like, just kind of like a nostalgic, I love this film. So check it out, 1983's The Outsiders, awesome movie. It's just an awesome movie. So we're gonna move on, but before I do that, I want to let you know I will link to down below to all these videos, all these movies I'm talking about. They will be affiliate links, so thank you ahead of time for supporting the channel. And so with that said, let's move on to number 2. And number 2, so I'm gonna be honest, if I was ranking this list on cinematic qualities, this one would be number 1. But I'm actually ranking it on the ones that I really just like, and not so much the technical aspect. It's more of an emotional connection. So my number 2 is Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now is the brilliance of this movie, the brilliance of Coppola and the people that worked with him, Vittorio Storaro, Walter Murch, just the absolute talent and artistry of this film. It could very easily be my number 1 film of all time, very easily. Because the use of light and dark, the use of saturated color, the use of the camera, the way that Murch edited it and put the story together, amazing. So I also, on my blog, have done a workup for both cinematography and a review of this. And so I'll link to a couple blog posts down below. Check them out if you're interested in learning more. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Martin Sheen, Marlon Brando, Lawrence Fishburne, just amazing. So it is Joseph Conrad's The Heart of Darkness, basically plucked from where it was and put in the Vietnam War. And so there's a lot of internal drama and it's amazing. So if someone told me today that I had to pick which movie to suggest to you to see to talk about Coppola's cinematic brilliance, and they said choose Godfather or choose Apocalypse Now, I'm going to tell you every time, hands down, Apocalypse Now is his best film for cinematography and cinematic reasons, technique-wise, visuals. That is his best film. Let's just segue into my number 1 because Apocalypse Now is an original, but I chose off of my heart, and so my number 1 choice is 1992's Dracula, the best telling of the actual book that's ever been done. This book has been, and Dracula has been had been beaten to death by the time it had gotten to him, and Coppola somehow took that story, took that character that everybody had done, and made it fresh again. How? By going back to basics and just following the story. Now granted, it's not 100% right on with the book, but it is the closest that anybody has ever gotten to it. It had a good cast: Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman are like top 5 best actors of all time. My opinion, but the truth. So good. You can see the saturated use of color, you can see the use of light and dark. He loves to play with that, Coppola does. And the use of the camera in that, amazing. So my number 1 choice is Dracula's 1992. Guys, I guess that's my top 5. If you're trying to get into Coppola, or you're just kind of thinking you want to see some movies that are outside the box of normal, check these 5 films out. And like I said, I'll link to everything in the description below. But before I go, leave me down in the comments like your favorite Coppola film. I'd love to hear what everybody's favorite Coppola film, and tell me why. So guys, I think that's it. If you liked the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you dig Cinema Sunday, go ahead and hit subscribe. And guys, please remember, I post every day by 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every day is a different show, but they all have to do with the film and the written word. And that's it for today, guys. Until next time, safe journeys.